Soul Phoenix Productions. As an 80s kid, I loved Transformers. I watched the cartoon, had all the toys, and I even owned Megatron, the one who transformed into a gun. I did realize that Transformers was aimed at boys and girls, but I didn't care. When Generation 2 was released in 1992, it was disappointing, and I subsequently ignored the other generations of Transformers as a female teen. As for my personal life, it sucked. I got these boring jobs such as mowing the lawn and, worst of all, babysitting. I hated it a lot. You have bratty kids you have to take care of, which can get annoying. Yep, I was a terrible babysitter, but it didn't matter, as I was saving money for a DVD of the original cartoon series. I was hired by the Jacobs one afternoon when I had one of the strangest experiences in my life. The Jacobs were going to a dinner party and left me in charge of their son. The Jacobs had one son named James. Upon arriving, I was surprised he was a Transformers fan who owned some of the newer toys. Once his parents left for a dinner party at 3 p.m., I played with James until he and I were exhausted. It was around 7:30 p.m. when I made the biggest mistake of my life. I asked James if he had ever watched the original TV show. He said no. However, his father did purchase for him a VHS tape from eBay as a gift. eBay? I never trusted eBay. Once I got scammed for a pair of shoes by an online seller, I felt like giving away your address to someone was dangerous. I shouldn't be complaining now. The VHS tape wasn't mine. It was James. Just before James went to bed, I asked him if I could watch it, and he said yes. I'll regret that decision ever since. As soon as James hopped into bed, I left his room and walked downstairs to see if the Jacobs still owned a VHS player. Across from the TV, I saw an old VHS player on a cabinet for storing DVDs. I looked through their collection of DVDs and eventually found the VHS James told me about. The front cover depicted Optimus Prime fighting Megatron with the sticker Volume 1, More Than Meets the Eye. I took the VHS tape out of its box and placed it into the VHS player. I switched the channel and sat on their sofa, trying to relax until the Jacobs arrived home. It was just a black screen at first. I thought something was wrong with their TV. Suddenly, before I got up, Megatron's face appeared on screen and the image began to zoom out until his full body was revealed. Megatron was standing next to an old man bound to a wheelchair. He looked down at the man with hate and malice. The old man didn't take any notice of Megatron as if he couldn't see him. Megatron lifted up his right leg and stepped on the man, presumably killing him. Megatron simply laughed at the man's demise. I could see his wheelchair, destroyed and crumbled underneath Megatron's foot. I was disturbed by the scene. I've never seen Megatron actually kill a human before. I thought this was some kind of homemade episode some creep made in their basement. The strangest thing was that Megatron's voice actually sounded like Frank Welker. But if he was still in the 80s doing an actual recording, it didn't help that it was raining on this particular night. The laughing stopped and it cut to a scene with Ratchet in vehicular mode, driving towards an unknown location. A brief glimpse of what appeared to be Optimus Prime sitting at a table in a room with no doors was shown. Then it returned to Ratchet driving in his vehicular form. I knew something was going to happen. Ratchet continued driving until he transformed, indicating that he had now arrived. It was the Ark, laying in ruins as it always was. Ratchet entered the Ark and seemed to be reminiscing various memories. I thought about Megatron's siege on the Ark. However, it was as if Megatron narrated the scene. He seemed to be speaking with Ratchet. You remember when we got fused together. You remembered the price of life. The price of life, I said to myself, but before I could contemplate what was happening, Kickback appeared and attacked Ratchet. Then a frame of Megatron's laughing face appeared for a short moment. Ratchet was knocked onto the floor before being dragged away by Kickback. Later, the scene changed to Spike Witwicky riding a bicycle when Megatron's narration kicked in. Spike Witwicky, what kind of a name is that? You fleshlings and your names. Well, damn you. Damn them to the very earth you live on. A bus came howling at Spike and violently ran him over. Megatron commented on Witwicky's death. Ha ha! Pathetic! Did your guardians tell you to watch the road? I guess not. I wish I'd made use of my human companions. The frame of Megatron's laughing face appeared again. It faded to a new scene of Megatron towering over a cowardly Starscream in a corner. Megatron was pissed. So pissed it was beyond humanly possible. You treach! Coward! You little waste of scrap! Starscream responded, But Megatron! Don't Megatron me! I'm going to show you what kind of hell I went through this time. You won't be coming back from this one. Megatron grabbed Starscream and threw him onto an operating table before strapping him down. Ratchet was on another operating table, also tied down. Ratchet pleaded for his life, but it was no use. Soundwave was also there next to Megatron. Megatron, please, don't do this. Just kill me. Just kill me. I'm not killing you, Ratchet. Soundwave, prepare for surgery. Yes, Lord Megatron. A surgical device came down from the ceiling as Soundwave closed the two tables together, forming one operating table. I knew what they were going to do. The two hopeless Cybertronians pled for their lives, but both were denied. Soundwave placed the device near Starscream and Ratchet's chests. Soundwave began at the very top of his head and started cutting. Starscream and Ratchet were screaming as Soundwave removed half of their outer body for fusion. He then stitched them together alive. Their tortured screams sounded like the voice actors were actually screaming in pain. Soundwave has just completed his surgery. Soon, Starscream and Ratchet were now one being. The stitched-together duo tried to speak, but all their speech was just gibberish. Megatron was pleased and guided them to an airlock. You two will be stitched together forever! Soundwave, open the airlock! Soundwave opened the airlock and Megatron threw the Starscream/Ratchet hybrid out into space, the duo still pleading after being sucked out. The scene ended as the still of Megatron's face appeared once more. It then cut to a scene of Optimus sitting at the table as shown earlier. This time, a gun that appeared to be Megatron's weapon mode was next to him. The gun started to talk to Prime. I knew it was Megatron. Prime, I've been in this hell long enough. I've been treated like a toy for children. Young fleshlings would never understand my hell, my torment, my eternal fight with you. It's time to end it, Prime. I've already taken care of some of your pathetic Autobot companions. There's no way out of this room. You cannot escape, and soon I will destroy all of your Autobots. Now end it. That was the loudest rage I've ever heard in my life. Optimus grabbed the gun and aimed it at his head. Then he spoke. No choice, no escape. I've died many times, but now this time it's permanent. I can't take this fight anymore. He fired the rifle. It cracked his head in servos. Mechanical parts flew onto the floor as Optimus Prime collapsed, killed by his suicide attempt. Megatron spoke for one final time. Optimus Prime is history. I now have the Matrix and shall turned the eternal fight in my favor. Hopefully this war will end and be history. His voice quickly turned to malice and hatred. And soon you'll be history. An extreme close-up of Megatron's face appeared and he was as mad as ever. However, his eyes weren't just pure red like they usually were. Instead, they were small black dots in those eyes of pure rage. His teeth were clenched and Megatron's mouth had some kind of substance dripping out of it, presumably oil. This lasted for 5 minutes. Before the VHS tape ended and the screen turned to static, I was left paralyzed on the sofa while the rain howled in the darkness of night, hallucinating Megatron's red eyes staring at me with those black dots in the center. That's how frightened I was. Just seeing Megatron's face was the scariest thing I ever saw in Transformers. Thankfully, the Jacobs came home and saw me sitting on their sofa. They asked if I was okay. This took me out of my paralyzed trance. I lied to them and said I just wanted to be paid. Mr. Jacob gave me $40 and I just walked out of there without asking any questions. I believed James was still asleep, but I had forgotten about him once I got home. I didn't want to sleep after what I saw. I was awake all morning, thinking of what I just watched. I had a lot of questions, not only about how it was made, but what it all was supposed to mean. The eternal fight obviously meant the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons, but where were Spike's friends and his dad? Where were the other Autobots? Who paid for the original actors? Either that or they were really good impressions. I will never find out, and I doubt that the creators would actually make this as the finale. My life eventually improved. I moved out and got an actual job. I regretted just leaving there. I should have gotten that tape, but I don't think the Jacobs live at their original house anymore, and I don't know if James actually watched it. If he did, he would be traumatized by it and probably upload it to YouTube as an adult. I still love Transformers. I don't know if I would see it again. Hopefully I don't. That tape gave me nightmares for 3 months after that. Still, that incident was somehow burned into my brain. Occasionally when I close my eyes, I still see Megatron's angry face complete with those black dots.